Welcome everybody to the second official public meeting of the Ontario, Canada Obelisk of the Novus Ordo Luciferi. Today we have a member of the NOL who is going to be giving a presentation today. His name is Grim. He has been a longtime mystic and has recently adopted Luciferian practices over the past 3 years during a search for answers. He loves demonology and demonolatry, has worked in most forms of magic, and is an expert in energy work. He is also a professional researcher. So his talk today is called 3 Hard Knocks of the Left Hand. And I'm going to bring him on now. Let's see here. Okay, welcome, Grim.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah.
Okay, so I understand you've got a presentation ready for us.
I do, and I just want to make sure if anybody in the chat can send me or post a message and let me know when you can hear this. I'm getting some lag on my end, so I want to make sure. And start getting set up here.
Yeah, somebody hit a heart on the chat.
Okay, perfect.
So that's good. So I can give you are you ready to, oh, Seamus said I hear you. Okay, great.
Perfect.
Okay,
yep.
So I will give you the floor. I'll give you the screen, and you can go ahead and start whenever you're ready.
Alrighty. So let's get going here. All right, hello everyone. My name is, my friends call me Grim. My name is Dr. Ryan Tierney, and I would like to welcome you to my presentation. This is going to be the 3 Hard Knocks of the Left Hand, a mystic's journey into the void. So I'm going to try and not bore you guys, and I'm going to blast through a bunch of stuff here, hopefully. I've got stuff sprinkled throughout this presentation for folks who are maybe new to Luciferianism or the left-hand path. I'm going to go through how what brought me here, and also just some stuff that I did along the way that really helped me. And so I wanted to share that with you guys, and then also kind of some pitfalls and some stuff that I've been seeing more recently, just throughout different groups and courses and things like that. And so at the end, I've got some references and some other stuff for you. So anyway, brief history here. I was raised within Christianity and Catholicism during childhood, probably, maybe around 6-ish. I actually befriended a mystic that kind of changed the direction of my path. I didn't know they were mystic at the time. I didn't know that they were associated with the groups they were associated with. And so, as you can imagine, some of the stuff that they were teaching me, I didn't realize till later on in life that this was the case. And so I'm going to go through that a little bit here, and some other stuff. So I grew up learning and practicing astral projection, probably around my teenage years, lucid dreaming pretty much my whole life, and I'll get into that here a little bit. Energy work, crystals, etc. I've studied 18 plus different belief systems and religions over the years. And a lot of those I've kind of identified links, just correlations between them. And I will dive deeper into some of these topics here in the coming slides. All right, so knock one. This is the first knock. I decided to name them knocks because they were more the school of hard knocks for me, and again, shaped my direction. So as a child, all of my dreams were lucid, and to a point where it kind of caused some issues, right, to the psyche and things like that. So the main dream that I would have was about nuclear war, right? And so I don't know where that came from, but that was the premise of most of my dreams as a child. And in said dream, I would shield children from the blast. And as you can imagine, as a young child, it definitely took a toll on my psyche, and it was fairly detrimental to me emotionally. Waking up with that level of trauma, as a child was kind of crazy, and so. So much so that at one point I tried to make a pact with the devil to sell my soul to stop, right? In exchange to stop these dreams. And as a child who was raised devout Christian, this was absolutely terrifying to me, right? Over time, the dream shifted to other events that would begin to take shape roughly 30 days after the dreams. And this was more so approaching teenage years. As time went by, different synchronicities and such led me to different paths. I tried to learn to control the dreams and other things that were happening around me because I had no idea, right? There were things that I just randomly knew that at my age I shouldn't have known, that others around me shouldn't have known. In fact, in third grade, I won the science fair competition for making hydrogen, which as a child, growing up in that time, there was no internet. I have no idea how I learned to make hydrogen, but I made hydrogen. On my journey, there were roads and decisions that, some were good and some not, right? And I had no idea where I was headed. I had no idea, what was happening, and I actually thought I was some kind of freak, right? Which I probably was, but whatever. Some of the darker roads, and actually the most, one of the main events from this portion was turning to drug abuse and becoming homeless. Living in a Fiero and with an Australian Shepherd is not an ideal situation. Later in life, I found that this was 100% due to dream suppression and trying to suppress some of the things because I didn't know what was going on. All of the events and the ones that I'm going to describe in the next two slides, I now know actually led me here. And, the path leading up to this, or up to, addiction and even after getting clean, it taught me a lot about myself. It taught me how to persevere through tough situations. I watched a lot of friends around me, either end up in jail or dead, right? And you got clean, went to jail, or you ended up in a grave. So, that right there taught me how to deal with loss as well, amongst other things. So while I was getting clean, more and more documentation was being released out to libraries and things like that for spirituality. And it actually helped me, a lot of the documentation that I was finding, it helped me learn to control and focus my energy, and then also begin to hold deep concentration. All right, my energy. Second knock, knock. This is one that this is where my name where my name originally came from, and later others, donned me a similar name, and it's kind of crazy how it worked out. So, anyway, throughout my life, death has always come in triples, right? Close friends, family, they've all passed in groups of three, and when I was getting clean, I was actually a caregiver in hospice to my grandparents who were actually like my parents, right? I think I spent more time with them than I actually did with my biological family. So during this time, the first passing was it was actually my first very, I call it empathic sync, right? Because it was so overwhelming that I didn't know what to do. And so I tried to save my grandfather, right? The nurse, practitioner put a fentanyl pain patch on him, and he was allergic to certain types of opioids and other medication. And he started to become unresponsive, and deep inside, I could feel his sadness and just like chaotic energy. And so I ran over there and yelled at the nurse and pulled the patch off, which ultimately led me to being released from hospice. But it was crazy. And so the next one was kind of a smack in the face, right? It was that very, very hard knock that it's like, hey dude, I'm trying to get your attention. You need to start focusing. And so the second passing was my grandmother, and she ended up in an elderly facility where a lady, I went in there one day, and she had said that my grandma was very weak. And so, as I always did, I walked in and started to talk to her, and I bent over to kiss her on the forehead, and as I did, she passed. And this right here is where the name came from, right? My family jokingly started calling me the Grim Reaper, and it just kind of stuck over the years. And so, me being absolutely devastated, I didn't find that funny at all, right? I didn't find it humorous, and now I look back and I'm like, you know what? I love the name. So Grim it is. The third passing was of that time was another grandparent on another side. So, let's go here. So next, the third knock. Over the course of my life, some of you may have noticed that I wear red sunglasses, and that is due to migraines. And so I've been plagued with neurological disorders, migraines, and other stuff. They come and go. They've come and gone my whole life. I now believe that some of this was due to energy work that I was performing unknowingly. And so most of the neurological issues would go away after a long period of time, except for one that I currently have. And that is actually part of what led me here. So the first set of research that I began performing was around potential new ways for cancer research. And after my father had passed, I was asking for guidance during meditations, and shown some things that absolutely are feasible. We are nowhere near that level of technology from a civilization standpoint. So it was just like cool story, bro. How am I supposed to implement this, right? And so in 2021, I began to search for ways to potentially reverse the neurological disease that I currently have. And so that research right there is what led me to Luciferianism. All right, mysticism. So I, looking back now at a young age, many of the activities that took place seemed to align with mysticism. At the time, as I previously stated, I didn't know that person I'd met as a child or been around a lot as a child was actually a Martinist. He was also a devout Rosicrucian. Some of the wisdom that was passed to me from that person, it kind of planted a seed that I didn't know was growing, right? And so over time, it just kind of festered and grew. And later in life, I actually became a Rosicrucian, and found out that he was an adept right before he passed away. At that point, the thirst for knowledge was absolutely a real thing. And for those who are maybe, beginning down this path, if you're looking to go down a rabbit hole and find the answers and just be done with it, you're definitely looking in the wrong place, because that rabbit hole will expand. You will jump down another rabbit hole and another rabbit hole, and it's pretty much never ending. So that right there ultimately led me to the left-hand path and closer work with entities through demonolatry. And I'll touch on that here in just a little bit. And at the end, I'm going to throw out a framework for you guys, just so you have it. I've been asked a lot about just the basics, and so I will share that out with you guys here in a little bit. So enough of the boring stuff. Let's get to it. So energy work. I'm jumping in now. I'm going to start sharing with you guys just things that I did to kind of refine and control and grow different things that I was struggling with early on. So the path that I traveled ultimately led to the refinement of what was described earlier. This refinement and control, as it always does, began with learning, right? So reading and studying and learning, and then taking that knowledge and putting it into practice through Tai Chi, Qigong, and Zen Buddhism meditation. The Rosicrucian methods for meditation and visualization actually expanded a lot of that, and it created a stronger visualization capabilities for me along the way. Eventually, I was able to see the colors in auras and performing certain types of manipulations. During that time, I was also practicing chaos magic. Okay, so the concept of yin and yang it's not new at all. The concept of light inside of dark and dark inside of light are the premise for the journey that I am actually sharing with you. As a mystic and even a cultist, you're taught that the concepts of good and evil, light and dark, positive and negative are nothing more than opposites of each other, or ways to describe the opposite of something. I was led to Luciferianism and left-hand path as a mystic wanting to do good in the world. So I was searching for ways that I could tap into different things to help. And one day I was driving to work, and a thought popped in my head, like, why can't I utilize demons for this type of activity for good? Using that of what most describe as evil entities for betterment of what I'm doing or trying to help others do. And so essentially I was attempting to use the dark to work in light, if that makes sense. All right, so first introduction to working with entities was literally growing up being required to pray to something that I could not see, right? Praying to a God that was my parents' God, that was, just something that I had to do. And, when I began to research working with demons, it was, the only word that really comes to mind now is extremely nervous, extremely scared, and obviously thinking I was out of my mind, just due to my upbringing and all the things that I was taught in that type of a setting. Reading the Ars Goetia was absolutely nerve-wracking, to say the least. I obtained a copy of one of the Keys of Solomon, written by Aleister Crowley, and threw it in the garbage, right? Because the energy that I felt coming off of that book was absolutely crazy, and I don't know why. I mean, still to this day, I've purchased 3 other copies of that book, because I would purchase one and somebody would ask me about something that was related to it, so I would gift them a book, and so I'd buy another copy, and none of those copies had that same energy. It was the weirdest thing. So growing up, all the information that was taught about those entities was pure evil. And as a mystic, I was taught there's no such thing as good and evil, right? When it comes to those we can't see, entities we can't see, energies, spirits, etc., that energy is neither good nor bad. That evil is actually reserved for mankind, right? It's for humans. It's the way humans behave and act. And so I had to kind of reprogram myself to overcome that hurdle mentally, and once I did, it absolutely catapulted me on a journey that has been nothing short of amazing, right? So on the screen here, you guys can see that I've got a few listed that I listed them out here for the first one for kind of a humorous thing that I share with you guys. The first demon that I tried to invoke was Mammon. It was an epic failure. I'm pretty sure that Azazel showed up to troll me, just based on the initial thoughts that rushed into my head, the individual that I saw sitting across from me, and everything else, and looking back on it now, it's humorous to me. I'm like, man, this guy just trolled the heck out of me. So the very first successful invocation was Beelzebub, and as a beginner, I definitely would not recommend starting with him specifically. His energy is very, very crazy, or can be kind of crazy. A lot of the stuff that I felt the first time was extreme sadness, loneliness, darkness, and then the second time was kind of happiness, and building that relationship was interesting, to say the least, right? So next, the invocation of Lucifer. If you're Luciferian and you have not tried to invoke Lucifer or communicate with him, you're doing it wrong, right? And so I would highly recommend treading a little bit lightly here as well. The energy associated can definitely become overwhelming, and I will talk about how to control that here in just a little bit. And finally, Azazel, right? That was my third successful invocation, and he's actually still one of my favorites to work with and to invoke. All right. So Luciferianism, the synchronicities, as I was researching deeper into certain things, the synchronicities started getting a little bit crazy. And so that picture on the screen there is actually one of them. I was standing in a furniture store out here. I looked up and saw triples all over the place. And hopefully my power doesn't go out. It just got really stormy again. So if my power goes out, I apologize. I will be back. All right. So synchronicities began to happen as I was researching demons, and directly led me into the study of Luciferianism. And then it kind of brought forth many different gurus and self-proclaimed speakers of truth from Lucifer. And that's the actual warning that I wanted to throw out to you guys, and the thing that I've kind of been seeing a little bit more lately, or the past few years, I guess. But there was a group, and I'm not going to say their name, but they wouldn't allow members to perform their own research. They stated that Lucifer does not show up for anyone except the high priestess witch of that group, and I'm sitting there like, y'all are so full of crap. Like I've had a relationship for a while, and every time I've invoked him, I've been able to see him. So I think you're full of shit, for a lack of better terms, right? So the first time I performed the Call of the Light Bearer was the most intense, because I didn't understand quite how to control the energy that was coming in or anything else. And as Seamus, I see your question on the screen. I will answer that here in just a few minutes. All right, so later myself and others were actually ripped off by this person and her boy toy. At one point, they tried to get me to perform a ritual that was performed by those who were trying to enter Doth. and cross the abyss. And I was like, hey, I'm not doing any of this. And they're like, oh no, it's fine. It's just meant to create a relationship with Karanzan. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm not doing any of that. And ended up just kind of trolling them, because
Hey, Gren, sorry to interrupt you there for a second. There is a bit of like a rustling sound that I'm hearing in the background.
Yeah, that's the rain bouncing off
Ah,
my window.
I was wondering if it was the weather or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay. All
Okay,
right.
sorry about that.
No,
Go
you're
ahead.
good. You're good. All right. So if you're planning on, and this is my a quick warning to y'all. If you are looking to buy any courses, buy content, just be careful. I found at least 5 different courses, groups, memberships, etc., that are 100% rip off artists, right? So just be careful. The one good thing of this experience was the introduction to the Qliphoth, and I'll get into that here in just a little bit. Going through many other courses and groups, it actually led me to perform further research and look into Michael W. Ford's content. His descriptions of visualization for the Holy Guardian Angel, Eze Luso, in the book Luciferian Sorcery, and practicing the visualization and that he describes in there, it drastically changed my trajectory. I would say that it helped open paths that I actually couldn't even have imagined opening, right? Just new knowledge and other things. During research of the Order of Phosphorus specifically, I was brought to the LRS, Luciferian Research Society, which was pretty awesome. All right, Qliphoth. So for those who don't know what the Qliphoth is, it is the opposite of the Tree of Life. If you don't know what the Tree of Life is, get a hold of me after this and I can explain that to you as well. When most think of the Qliphoth, they think of crossing the abyss. And while this is correct, there is another aspect to it as well. The Sutra Akra actually covers Qliphothic magic, and the book actually has some of the most powerful elements that I've ever used in ritual magic, aside from my own energy. The throne seals, single key, and formulas. I've seen others use in just general ritualistic workings. I've actually used these, the throne seal specifically, and also the hendecagram in place of sigils, right? And so they're very, very powerful. These symbols are not something that I would say tread lightly in. Do your research, practice, and go forth. All right, so the hendecagrams are, I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, are on the bottom right there. Those are kind of interesting, and so you can actually create these to draw out different types of energy and for magical workings from the Qliphoth. All right, so the left-handed Reaper, I have not heard many talk about this actually. So I hear people talk a lot about death magic and working with Santa Muerte, but they don't really talk about Signor Morte. And so I wanted to bring this here just for awareness for folks. And so most discuss working with death magic as using the loss of a close family or a member or friend to drive the energy for their workings. Death magic is actually more than that. And this right here is one of those pieces of knowledge that I want to share with you guys. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but something for you guys, that are looking to work with death magic to kind of dive into. The book that this is outlined in is the Liber Falxifer. It describes working with Signor Morte, or the left-handed Reaper, in ways that don't only include the loss of another. It also goes into Santa Morte, working with her as well. And so while working with energy, and this is kind of what led me to find this book, I was doing energy work and grounding for a while, and I began to think, what am I missing? You know, there's something more. There's something I'm overlooking here. And when I started studying this text, I started to notice that new synchronicities were popping up, which kind of led to a series of what ifs. And one of the what ifs was, what if I try to harness or use the dark, stale energy that is usually grounded into the earth? Damian Nichols actually describes this, where you take the energy and this dark, stale, cloudy, smoky energy and ground it into the earth, and then you pull the light of Kether down into your body and refilling you with bright white energy. And I thought to myself, what if I do the opposite? And that right there, I started focusing on all kinds of different stuff that's not taught, right? So I started focusing on what's in between the breaths. You breathe in during meditation, you hold your breath. What is in between that, right? What happens in that brief moment of what I consider darkness, right? What happens when you're in the meditative state and you've got a dark void sitting right in front of you in your mind? What if you focus on that? What actually happens? And that right there, instead of focusing on a candle flame, this is another example, I'd focus on the black spot that would form after staring at it for a while. I would gaze into that darkness, and over time that actually brought me to the Novus Ordo Luciferi. And so I didn't know why at the time, and some of the stuff that I've been learning, right, is almost directly related to that. And so I'm not going to go into any details on that because I know we have non-members here. So I'm just going to leave it at that. And all right, so this right here is the slide for the next portion of my journey, right? So the Novus Ordo Luciferi, or NOL. I began by joining the Luciferian Research Society, which is a website that Jeremy also runs, that is absolutely amazing, right? There's like-minded people that are actually happy to talk with you and share information and things like that. Can I post the name of? Yes, I will. Drago, I will absolutely. I've got a bunch of, or some references at the end, and it's in there. I will absolutely share that with you guys. All right, so the LRS had a lot of like-minded people. When I joined their Discord channel, I realized that I was in a good spot, right? And the centralized location for information that is shared on the LRS website is about other and shared with other groups is actually something that's not commonly found and quite amazing. As a part of the NOL workings, I've been through and read the content that is there and worked through a lot of the ritualistic work that is associated with private membership, and it's been pretty profound, to be honest. Some of the workings include, initiation, concentration, black flame work, and general gnosis. I'm not going to go into deep details on any of that, just because I'm sure that there's folks here that aren't actually members of NOL yet. So what I'm sharing next and throughout the rest of these slides is not NOL specific. But things that I've learned over the years and just picked up from different places that, folks who are a little bit newer on their journey, I've shared this out many, many times. So, all right. So aura perception training. I cannot disclose where this came from. I know Damon Nichols actually covers, putting your hand up on a wall and staring through it, and things like that. This is different, okay? And I implore each of you to, if this is something that you want to learn, want to get into, it's going to take time and practice if you don't already have this capability, right? So you start by placing a bowl or a glass bowl or a cup of water on a table sitting in front of you. Generally, the bowl is or glass cup, you're going to want to be clear. All right. Sit in a chair with your feet flat on the floor and make sure you're sitting with your back straight. Put your hands around the cup. It's going to be about 3/4 of an inch outside of it, so you're not touching the cup, and you have your hands in kind of a circle shape. You want to be comfortable because you want your hands slightly off the table. You don't want to touch the table or shelf or whatever your hands are on right now. And you're going to be there for a few minutes, so make sure that you are you are comfortable. You begin by closing your eyes and breathing normally. Next, you're going to hold your breath. You want to inhale for a count of 6. Hold your breath at the top for 3 seconds. Exhale for a count of 6. Breathe in, count to a count of 6, and hold for 3 seconds. And keep repeating this. Do not hold at the bottom, just the top. And you want to perform this for roughly 3 minutes. While you're doing this, make sure to in your mind focus on the space in between the cup or glass and your hand. All right, this is very, very important. After 3 minutes roughly, you want to slowly open your eyes and just look at the space in between your hands and the glass. Over time, you will begin to notice colors start to form. Just practicing this over time. Take a note of the color you see. It may take a few times for you to be able to see the color, but it absolutely works. There's a reason that this technique has been around for a very, very long time, and a reason why it has been kept secret for a very, very long time. So this is very powerful stuff that I'm sharing right now. Yeah. Anyway, if you only see the color for a second, just you can blink your eyes a little bit, open them slowly and examine. I know for myself, sometimes if I'm really tired and I can only see certain things right when I'm opening my eyes. So just throwing that out there. And let's see here. So next, basic items for demonolatry. All right. This is the very, very bare minimum. You don't need a triangle. You don't need a scrying mirror. You absolutely 199% don't need a fancy altar cloth or a thing on the floor to try and trap these entities, whatever the case is, right? It's almost all of the books that I've read more recently have stated the same thing. Like, don't trap them, don't trap the spirits, don't trap the entities, don't trap the demons, whatever you're working with. Like, how would you like if somebody threw you into a box, right? You wouldn't like it. So basic tools needed are candle, the offering, the N of the demonic N, the sigil, petition, and incense. The format is very, very simple. It seems that folks get hung up on this thing or that thing. The candle should be in the color of the petition and or demon. Oftentimes, these will go hand in hand. The offering can be something as small as herbs, alcohol, or I will do this task for you. Be creative. It doesn't have to be something crazy or huge. And it also doesn't have to be something that you have to leave out for years, right? It can literally be, I'm going to let this candle burn for, its entirety, and that will be, my tribute to you, whatever the case is. The demonic N, if you're invoking one of the goetic spirits, they can be found in a few places. If you cannot find them for whatever reason, I have a gigantic spreadsheet where I've correlated all this data. Just message me and I can get it to you. A sigil, same thing. You can find that all over the place. Petition, the petition is going to be the outcome that you want. You need to make this as if it already happened, right? Your conviction and belief is what fuel this type of working. The incense also should be aligned with the demon, not your favorite like vanilla incense or whatever. You know, sandalwood, wormwood, frankincense, and myrrh, dragon's blood, etc. are going to be your go-to. Basics for invocation. So the basic things to perform invocation are a candle. You put the yes, Seamus, it's very stormy. I apologize. Place the candle in front of you. I usually place everything facing east most times. If I'm working with other types of entities, I may point at west or north or south, but most times I'm pointed to the east. I put the sigil right in between myself and the candle. I place the offering to the left, the incense to the right, and then I light it. From there, I will meditate for a few minutes on the intent and or outcome, and just build that very, very strong visualization, the very strong emotion, raw, pure emotion to drive the actual ritual. From there, I gaze at the sigil. I try to look at it as if it was one of those crazy pictures that had the numbers that were kind of hidden in the dots, right? Where you take your eyes out of focus, and I'll begin that as my witch's gaze. I scan the sigil from the bottom up, starting with the symbol in the center. I will visualize it turning a very bright white, and then I will do the same with the words. And from there, I'll begin chanting the N until I start to feel energy, the energy kind of change in the room. It's very, very distinct, very profound. As you're chanting the N, though, if you start to feel overwhelmed, stop, right? That right there is how you control how much energy you're pulling into the room, right? So you don't get overwhelmed by it. And over time you can adjust that to make it more, make it less, whatever, right? But just chant the N until you feel comfortable with the energy. And then from there, welcoming the spirit, state the petition with my intention and deep, raw emotion at the forefront of my mind. Once that's done, you can give a license to depart if you'd like, or you can sit for a few minutes and see if there's any gnosis that they would like to share. From there, I snuff the candle. I do not blow it out. I snuff it and discard it. I have a very, very specific reason for snuffing that if anybody's interested, I can talk about that. All right. So that is the end of just the general stuff, right? So energy work, I used Tai Chi and Qigong and Buddhist meditation to kind of focus and visualize. I used Rosicrucian meditation techniques to build that very, very strong visualization. And then from there, this is more of a step-by-step outline for folks who are just wanting to start kind of working in this space. All right, so now recommendations, right? So these are the book recommendations. There was, let's see here, so where did it go? I don't remember who asked me about this, but you can see right here, Drago. So these right here, the Liber Falcifer 1, 2, and 3, contain information on this type of on the work with death magic. But all of these right here are just like my basics, right? I mean, there's tons of others, right? The principles of occultism, or the I can't think of the actual name of the books now. There's 4 of them, like oh man, I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, there's those. There's the complete book of Golden Dawn magic. And some other things that I did not put on here on purpose, right? If folks are looking for that type of stuff, more mystic type references, I can share those out as well. Initiates of the Flame is a smaller book, but it's actually pretty good. All right, and then so courses and memberships. I don't know what happened here. Can you still see my screen, Jeremy? Okay, so courses and memberships. Yeah, for some reason it went black on my right here. So obviously the NOL, right? Luciferian Research Society, recommended courses, demonolatry and general left hand path. Any of the Orly courses or Black Witch Diary courses. If you're looking for chaos magic stuff, the Order of Chaos Living Witchcraft course is actually really good. Sonray, it does an amazing job and absolutely cares about his students. So very open and willing to work with folks. So and that is all. And I do know that there's a few questions in the chat window here. So I will stop sharing. And that took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. All right, so we have here, do I interpret synchronicity as a sign of success? No, it can be either, right? And so that's something that sometimes it will tell me that I'm on the right path. Other times it'll just be a slap in the face, right? So if I get hit in the face over and over and over by something, then I will know that I'm kind of going in the wrong direction. Let's see here.
I'm just jumping back in here with you.
You're good. I was looking to see if there were other questions here.
I think we got all of the questions that were posted in the chat.
All right.
I think. I can ask you some questions. There's a bunch of things came up while you were talking that I had questions about. What were though? Can you review what were those 3 knocks again?
So the 3 knocks that I had were gifts, right? So just stuff from growing up and things like that. The second one was death, and the third one was illness. And those were 100% related to what I am now interpreting as like, hey, dude, you're going the wrong direction. You need to start focusing. You need to start paying attention. You need to listen to what's going on around you, etc. Yeah, that's why I call them that.
Cool. I was curious, what religion were you raised in?
So Christianity and Catholicism, I was more on the Southern Baptist Christian side than Catholicism. Very, very, hell and fire and brimstone and do as I say, not as I do type of situation.
Yeah, it's funny because my father is Catholic and my mother is Baptist, and so I kind of did get that same mix. But I was kind of pushed towards the Catholic side more because my father went to Catholic school when he was growing up, and he wanted me to also go to Catholic school. Here in Canada, they've got public school and they've got Catholic school, and both receive tax money, which is kind of crazy.
Nice.
And then anything else is kind of independent, and it's just run by the money that they raise from charging tuition or whatever. Like even for like elementary. So I was raised Catholic mostly by being put in Catholic school.
Yep.
I didn't get a ton of religion at home, actually. It was mostly just that they had put me in the Catholic school.
And that right there is, the force in being forced into religion is something that, I've definitely not done to my children. Right. I don't want them to be forced into that. It's just not something that I would ever try to force on anyone, actually.
Another question that I had, I noticed that in your notes and your slides, as well as in the Discord, that you've got this notation that you use a lot with the 0x and then something after it. Can
Yeah,
you explain what that's about?
I can. It is absolutely not related to Luciferianism, religion, or anything else. I and I was looking at some of the stuff in the chat here. Um, Somebody asked what my degree's in, and so that 0x00 is actually it's a null byte,
Mm.
which in the world of hacking is actually a thing that was used for a very, very long time in exploitation techniques. And so my degree is in computer science. It is the I've got many degrees, but the actual the PhD side is in psychology of leadership.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. Um, okay. And
So,
I'm wondering what Seamus meant when he said an anti-synchronicity. Do you
oh,
know what he was talking about there?
yeah, he was asking if, he asked if I saw synchronicities as positive or being on the right path, and I said no,
Mm.
because there's positive and negative to everything, and so I I view them more as, if I see a lot of them popping up, then yeah, I'll know I'm on the right path. But if I see other things popping up that are not numbers, right? If it's just repeated activities or things like that, then I'll know that I may not be on the right path. So
Hmm.
that's what he meant. Uh,
Okay.
yeah. So let's see here. There was one other one I saw. It was thoughts on Abramelin.
Yeah,
I'll be
Dale Fleischer asked that.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll be honest with you. I bought the book of Sacred Magic by him, and I haven't read it yet. I've done a little bit of research on him. I have not dove super deep into that. So thank you for reminding me that I have that book.
I think I have it right over here somewhere. But yeah, I like it, but it's kind of hardcore. Like,
Yeah,
it's almost like you create the conditions for a psychotic break.
yep, yep, yeah, and that right there is kind of some of the stuff that I had read about when I initially had started researching, and I was like researching him, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna buy this book. I'm gonna put it over here in my cabinet back here, and I just haven't gone back to it. I mean, there's other books as well, grimoires that I I downloaded the PDF. I started to read them and was just like, you know what, this is so far out there. I don't want anything to do with this. Like, sacrificing, different things and doing this or that. And no, I'm good. I am good. I'm not trying to kill anybody or anything. So, uh,
Cool. Now you had mentioned that you had gotten involved in Martinism early on in your journey with occultism and esotericism and mysticism. What can you tell me a little bit more about that? What order, if you're willing to share the name of the order that you were part of, and um, what your experience was with Martinism?
so it was a traditional Martinist order.
Okay.
And yeah, and I went that route because as a Rosicrucian, I didn't want to align myself with a religion, right? I wanted to be completely agnostic and go forth, kind of with an open mind. And obviously it panned out because I'm here, right? As far as Martinism goes, that's more of the religious side, right? Of that whole organization. Um, I quickly learned that reintegration is not really my forte. Um, I don't believe that we are striving to. Um, I don't believe that we're striving to be reintegrated into some, weird realm that may or may not be able to you may or may not be able to get into by without doing X, Y, or Z, right? So, I Martinism, it's all right. It just, like I said, that part of it just kind of, I'm not really into that. I mean, the Kabbalah and Kabbalistic stuff that you're taught is actually, it's not horrible. It is right in line with other things, but yeah, from the religious side, I try to be agnostic as much as possible.
I was involved with the ancient Martinist order, and
Yep.
actually that particular lodge that I was a member of had actually gone through calling themselves various different uh, banners,
Hmm.
different names, and eventually, by the end of my activity with that group, it was Ancient Martinist Order, which
Hmm.
ironically was one of the newest created orders of the Martinist Order that they.
That's insane, right? Like,
The newest one was called the Ancient Martinist Order. It was pretty cool. I do agree with you that it was somewhat religious based. In particular, I was involved because my Gnostic bishop, who I was training under, he wanted me to be part of the Martinist order as part of my training towards the priesthood.
yeah.
So I can totally see what you're saying with that. And I thought there was some really interesting concepts, and we were taking it in a very Gnostic way,
Hmm.
our particular group. Um, and I found it really interesting. But yeah, ultimately, I decided to become inactive.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of what what I've found a lot of people do. Once they get into a certain level or get through at least the um, a certain point on their journey, they just bail, right? And so, which it's understandable if they're not religious, but they're trying to learn the Kabbalah or other things that are taught inside of that religion or group. Once they learn that part, they're out, right? And again, I don't blame them. If they're non-religious, they're not religious, right? So.
I went to as far as the third degree, the superior inconu,
Mhm.
but I never got the free initiator degree.
Gotcha.
Where at one point they were the same, they were part of one thing, but then they separated out the permission to initiate people into a fourth degree, sort of.
Yep. Yep.
Power move, I think, probably, but to control, you know,
Yep.
the proliferation of it and such. But I did make it to the main, third degree with the teachings and stuff. It was a really interesting initiation ceremony. I won't go into the details, but I thought there was some pretty uh, entertaining aspects of it that were a bit surprising. But
Yeah.
um, so another thing that you had mentioned was the qigong
Hmm.
and tai chi,
Hmm.
and I that's when I listened to what you were saying about that, it connected to me with the whole tradition of Taoist internal alchemy.
Yes. Yep. You
Is
got
that
it.
yeah, okay.
Yep.
I'm really into that too. That's something that I find very heavily inspiring, and so a lot of my practices are so a lot of them have inspiration or some sort of uh, yeah, some sort of inspiration from some of the material that I've encountered and worked with in that tradition.
That's awesome. Yeah. It. I don't even remember why. I think I was bored or something, and at one point, and I was like, I got to figure out something to do, and then and not even realizing what was happening. Right. I was being led to that um, to start working and refining and controlling the my energy, and it was I started at it. It was a community center, right? After school, I would go into a local community center to play pool and other stuff. And one day they had an old guy in there that was teaching Tai Chi, and so from there, it just kind of spiraled into Qigong and then Zen Buddhist meditation. And there's actually a course by a gentleman named, and this is you guys are gonna look this guy up and be like, what a joke, right? But the stuff that he actually teaches in his meditation course is phenomenal. It absolutely teaches you how to feel the energy in your nervous system, how to move it, control it, etc. The guy's name is Dan Depani, and this was a few years ago. I took that course. And it was probably like 6 or 7, 8 years ago or something now. But yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal. It teaches you again how to feel, how to breathe, and how to feel your nervous system, how to build the energy up in your spine, etc. And just absolutely amazing. So.
What do you think of Mantak Chia?
I've actually never heard of that. What was it?
Oh, okay. Mantak Chia.
Huh? I haven't actually heard of that. Where's
Oh,
my
okay.
pen? I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, and I can message it to you later as well.
All right.
I've read a few books by him, and I thought that it was really good material. He is he claims to be taking a lot of the formerly secret teachings of Taoist internal alchemy and making them available to people who may not have access to initiation, and that sort of thing. And he's updated, I guess you could say, some of the language, which I think it could use some updating sometimes. If for our modern mind to understand it properly, sometimes it needs to be reworded. Yep. And I found that a lot of his material was quite good. He has a student that went on to create some of his own teachings. That was I'm trying to remember the first name, maybe Stephen or something, but it was Yudelove, Yudelove, and he has I read one of his books anyways, and I think it was like 100-day program.
I've heard that name before. I don't remember where, but I've definitely heard that name.
And I thought that his material was pretty good too. And he was initially a student of Mantak Chia, but then he became his own. He kind of went his own way with Chia's blessing. And
nice.
So I thought that was pretty neat too.
Yeah. If you send me that information as well, I'm always interested in new knowledge, new research. Right, like that thirst for knowledge is kind of just exacerbated as I've gone. Right, it's a part of learning. I say learning PhD, but it literally is just how to perform actual research, right? That's literally what those programs are meant for. So I didn't realize at that time either, going into that I was essentially just gearing up to perform further research, right? So yeah, so I love knowledge and going down rabbit holes. So
cool. And with that knowledge, you hope to make the world a better place?
Yes, 100%. And we're already starting. We being myself and my family, we're already kind of starting down that road. That is something that, for full transparency here, the last invocation that I did, I asked for help and guidance in certain things, and that's what's happening, right? So ask and you shall receive, right? We've built a business. We're going out to craft markets. We're selling, mystical type items online as well. and just trying to sell as much stuff as we can to bootstrap a business that is essentially going to be used almost exclusively. I say almost exclusively because you're going to have some food to kind of live on.
Of
But
course.
we're looking to obtain a either a large chunk of land or a very large building so we can start indoor agriculture. We met today with the one of the local food banks out here, which is actually huge, to talk to them about becoming a distributor. All right, and so what we would do is we would take the food that we grew, go drop it off to them, and they would distribute it throughout this county, and they've got partnerships. I think they said with 19 other counties in this state, and so being able to help and give back in that way is going to be amazing once we get there.
That sounds really inspiring.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to definitely send me a link to your shop,
Yeah.
and I'll add it into the description of this video afterwards.
Awesome. Sounds good.
And any other projects that you've got links to, I'll put. Send me that as well, and I'll update the description of this video with those links as well.
All right. Sounds good.
Now, one of the things that I think separates Luciferianism from other left-hand paths is that drive to make the world a better place. The other paths on the left-hand side tend to have a focus on the self, which I think is fine, and Luciferianism does have that as well. But in addition to that, it also has that drive to use your knowledge to make the world a better place in some way.
Yep. Yeah, and that right there, it's one of the things that has really resonated with me is because I used to just help everybody, right? Like I was that guy. I would go out and like, oh, you need $20? Here you go. Here's $20. Oh, you need to borrow my car. Here's my car. And obviously not the best way to operate in life, right? Getting ripped off is absolutely a thing, right? Or your car stolen or whatever. Right. And so one of the things that I've learned through, researching Luciferianism and coming to understand and know more of this belief system. One of the things that really resonated with me was help those who cannot help themselves, right? So Jimmy down the street needs $20. Hey, you want to mow my yard? Yeah, I'll give you $20. Like mow my yard in the neighbor's yard, I'll hook you up, right?
Right.
You're going to work for it. If there are 100% families and people out there who can't, and so that right there is part of the reason why we approached the local food bank, was because they've got that process down, right? They've got that infrastructure down. They've got that customer base that they've vetted for the most part, and so obviously a lot more than what we can do. And so we wanted to make sure that what we were giving out was to those kinds of people, right? It was to the folks that maybe they couldn't help themselves, or maybe they're on currently on a hard time or something like that, right? And so again, that resonated with me a lot. Just giving to those who can't help themselves. So,
well, the really cool thing about feeding people, feeding the hungry, especially, is that when you are in a situation where you don't know how you're going to meet your basic needs and those of your family, you can't focus on any of the higher level, the higher levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you could say. The actualization and that sort of thing. It's hard to think about actualization when you have to skip meals sometimes, just to get by.
Absolutely. Yep.
So I think that's great, because that actually allows people the space to be able to have those needs met, and then they can work on those. They have the freedom, the space to work on those higher order needs, you could say.
Absolutely. 100%.
So one of the things that I wanted to ask you, a lot of people might not understand what the difference is between demonolatry and demonology.
Yes.
Is there a difference? What is that difference? Is there overlap? Are they mutually exclusive?
So the overlap is in the knowledge, right? So demonology is researching the demons and learning about them, and demonolatry is actually working with them, invocation, evocation, etc. And so from the knowledge that you learn by researching them, you then take that and translate it into actually working with them, right? As you research, you start to get an idea of a little bit of their character, of their energy and such. But again, most people's what they see when these entities come into their space is often different, right? Um, there's no one description that fits everything all the time, right? And so more so learning the ends and learning what they like for offerings and colors and things of that nature. And so building up, like I said earlier, that I've got this huge spreadsheet of correlations. And so that was all the research I put into each entity, right? And so I would say something like the Ars Goetia or the keys of Solomon, not just the lesser key, but the keys of Solomon, would I would think align with more of the learning side, right? If we were to apply this to goetic spirits, and then putting that into practice would be demonolatry.
Hmm. And you were saying that the purpose that you utilize demonolatry for is those goals that you have to try and make the world a better place. You were saying.
Can you repeat that? I was reading a comment by Dale Fleischer in the chat. What was that?
Yeah, so and it connects with the question. Dale actually said, "Do you think these demons are interested in the betterment of humanity?" And what my question was tied into that. It was the purpose of demonolatry, and I
Mhm.
guess that would be depending on what your particular goals are. And for
So
you, it's helping humanity.
so I would say that your intent is what drives that, as long as it aligns with them, right? With their powers, with what they are for, right? So as far as betterment of humanity, as far as destruction of humanity, I haven't felt either way. Just in communication and working with them, I haven't felt either way,
Hmm.
good or bad, or anything else, like trolling and messing around and things like that. 100%. Like some of them are absolutely jokers. Like and you wouldn't even realize, you wouldn't even think, and so as far as, again, betterment or not betterment, I don't think it really matters at all. Like I really don't. So.
Okay, so basically, from what I'm getting from what you're saying, is that you could think of the demons as almost like a functional unit, that they have their own uh, type of work that they enjoy doing, and if you give them a task that's in line with that, then they'll just be happy to do it, whatever your intent with that is, regardless of whether it's to help or to harm.
Mhm.
If it's in line with the functionality that they enjoy doing, then you can set them to the task and they'll be happy to do it.
That, I mean, I generally will my intent for things like this are more, so like, let's say for my business, if I wanted to call on a entity to help guide me in that, to help humanity, I would use my intent on the business specifically, right? I
Mm.
wouldn't focus on, I want to do this because of this, because who cares what I want or why I want to do it, right? Like, who cares why? if I'm focusing on one thing, I'm requesting knowledge about building a business, then that is what I will get, right? If I'm requesting, money for whatever purpose, and I take that money and go give it out to, a donation or the community or whatever, who cares? That function was served. The purpose of the intent and the ritual is complete at that point, right? Once whatever it is that I'm wanting has been received. So again, I try to keep the reasoning out of it. Even like becoming financially free, I would try and keep my family and my want of sitting on a beach or whatever out of that picture, right? I would more focus on, I want to be financially free, for this other reason, and all the other stuff is just vapor, right? So that's generally how I operate when I approach these things.
Very cool. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, Now, one of the things I wanted to ask you about was that the Liber Falcifer
Mhm.
book. That's part of what's called Current 218.
Yep.
What connection does that have with Luciferianism, and does it have any connection with demonolatry, or any of that? What we've been discussing.
So I haven't really dug too deep into that current or its alignments, but
Okay.
in my mind, right? A spirit is a spirit is a spirit. An entity is whatever you want to call it, right? The fact that we've titled them this or that is a man-made concept. It's a man-made term, right? So I generally prefer to think of these things as more of entities or energy workings, right? So Egyptian deities and other things of that nature, I try to approach them in the same manner, right? And so working with something like the Left Hand Reaper, or Santa Morte, or Senior Morte, is, in my mind, I still approach it the same way.
Hmm. Now, one of the things that I thought was funny here, Seamus mentioned that his power just went out.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
and,
I
and
saw.
he's the one that was asking about the synchronicities so much, and then all of a sudden his power
Bam.
goes out too.
Here's your sign,
Yeah.
right?
um, so the other thing that came up was the void.
Mm,
That I'm fascinated by this, and one of the things that you mentioned was the space between breaths.
yes.
And I think of that as, I think of it using the term bardo, and that's a term that comes from Tibetan Buddhism,
Yes.
and it basically means an in
Okay.
between, a space in between, or in a more modern lingo, you could say a liminal space.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
And there's all these, if you look up liminal space, you're going to find images of places that usually don't have anybody in them, and it feels like it's a temporary spot that you're not really supposed to be, or maybe it's just a spot that you're passing through. I guess
Yes.
that's kind of like the definition of liminal space, is a space that you literally are just traveling through it. It's not a destination or anything like that.
Yep. Yep, agreed. Yeah, and that right there, in meditation, you kind of get that. When you're first kind of relaxing your body and things like that, you get that. And what I described is just like a black blank canvas, and eventually, start getting imagery and other things. And maybe it starts with colors, maybe it starts with whatever, depending on the person. But um, that right there, that darkness, that you know that the areas that we don't usually focus on are the things that I've started to kind of look into.
Very cool. Actually, it's funny because you also mentioned lucid dreaming,
Yes.
and I taught a course in lucid dreaming, the first online course that I ever taught like that actually back in December. And during that course, I got to a section that I thought of as the or called referred to as the void.
Mm-hmm.
And that space. Oh, it looks like I may have lost you. Oh, get me back here. 1 second. Reconnecting. Okay. Okay, well, hopefully it comes back here. But in the meantime, I'll just finish my thought here. I was referring to those Bardo moments, like the space between one breath and the next, as a rift or a tear in the space-time continuum that gets you access to the void. And I feel like that's exactly what you're talking about here in that section. Okay, unfortunately, it looks like we lost Grim. Okay, let me try calling him back. See if we can get him back here. And we're probably ready to wrap this up soon anyways, but let's see if we can get him back. Okay, well, unfortunately, looks like we may have lost him. Maybe he lost power. Okay, so I'll keep an eye out to see if he's going to come back. Thank you, Grim, Ryan, for giving us that presentation. We really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your knowledge and your journey with us. One of the things that you had mentioned was the membership in the Luciferian Research Society, which is like you said, it's a website that you get membership to. It costs $1 a month, or you can pay $10 up front for a whole year to get access to it. And it's like a social media network, and you get your own profile page, and there are forums. You can post blogs and read and comment on other people's blogs. In addition to the site-wide forum, we also have individual groups, which are these little special interest capsules, you could call it, or mini rooms, maybe that would be a better term. And you can go in there and you can talk in the forum for that particular group. You can share files and photos and things like that. And some of these groups are used as just a way to focus on a specific topic. Now, other groups are utilized for actual orders. Oh, here we go. Hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Let me bring you back in here. Yep, I can hear you. I can't. We don't have your video feed though. Oh, lost you again. Okay. Well, hopefully we managed to reconnect in a minute here, but so some of the groups within the Luciferian Research Society are actually ways for a particular order, an esoteric order, to oh, looks like we are receiving a call. Okay. Oh, there you are. Okay, let me bring you back in on the screen. Oh, okay. I see. You must have came in on your phone.
Yeah, I'm on my phone now. I figured better this way so I don't need internet or power.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was just describing a little bit about the LRS. Um, and I was just I might as well finish my thought here. So the some of the groups are for a particular order. So the Order of Phosphorus that you had mentioned earlier, that was founded by Michael W. Ford. There are
Mhm.
three groups within the LRS for that. One is just for members of the priesthood to it's a private group. You have to be invited in to join that one. And they, talk about things just for people who are in the priesthood. There's another one that is for anybody who's just starting work on that through the zero grade workbook. People are working through that. Um, oh, something's going on here. Oh, okay. Sounded like I was getting another call through Skype. But anyways, and then that one is open for anybody who wants to join and work through that zero grade workbook material for TOPH. And then once you get initiated into grade one and above, there's another group. So they have like three groups, and some of them are private and some of them are open to anybody from the LRS. But that's just an example of how these groups can be utilized. And we have one for the Novus Ordo Luciferi within the LRS as well, a private group just for NOL members to discuss things amongst themselves within that. But one of the cool things that I wanted to mention about Novus Ordo Luciferi membership was that it includes membership in the LRS. So normally the LRS costs $1 a month, or as I was saying, $10 for a year up front. Um, Novus Ordo Luciferi membership costs uh, $5 a month, but it includes LRS membership, so you don't have to pay. NOL members get that $1 a month fee waived for the LRS. So if you join the NOL, you also get LRS membership too while you're at it. So that's just something that you might want to consider if you were listening to this stream and wanted to join the LRS. Maybe just go ahead and join the NOL, and you'll get LRS membership as well included in that. Um, and let's see, did we have any other questions?
I feel like I'm froze on the screen there. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I see that. Let me reset your.
Froze. Yeah, I'm froze. Could be my phone too. We're with the storm and stuff. I don't know.
Where do we have here? That's strange.
Yay, technical issues. It happens. Oh yeah, and you can also get sweet swag like this right here. Oh, you can't see it. It's not on the screen. Dang it.
Oh, you're wearing the
Oh
Novus
yeah.
Ordo Luciferi shirt. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to see if I remember there's a way to restart the.
So Dale,
remove that and then put it back in.
can they still hear me on the stream?
I believe that they can hear you.
Okay.
It's just the.
Yeah, Dale's asked a couple times about Enochian magic, and to be honest with you, I absolutely know a little bit about it, and what I do know about it, I absolutely love. the that and planetary magic are two of my of some of my favorite types. Aside from working with entities, right? I just there's something about that work that has been very profound for me.
Yeah, what work was that again? Sorry.
So he was asking about Enochian magic,
Hmm.
and I was just saying that the research that I've done on that and the that and planetary magic, I love both of them quite a bit. I mean, anything that in this space I love, except for the crazy devout Christian folks. But that's neither here nor there, right? So yeah, that and then. I really, really, really like working with entities and demons, though. I mean, that right there has been absolutely amazing.
And how does Enochian fit into your practice?
It really doesn't much. Right? I try different things out, and I'm like, oh, that was fun, and then I move on back to the stuff that works well for me, right? So yeah, it really doesn't fit into anything I'm doing, to be honest with you.
um, I like to utilize the Enochian for um, the language, to
Yes,
utilize it as a magical language. It has this quality to it that I find very evocative.
nice.
And there's some interesting lore behind the Enochian material and how it was obtained by John Dee and Edward Kelly. And there's sort of a Gnostic flair to it. And there's a lot of speculation about the true nature of the entities that describe themselves as angels. And were they really angels? Were they fallen angels?
Yeah,
Did they describe themselves as angels because that's what Dee and Kelly were expecting and willing to commune with? You know,
yeah,
um, Paul Foster Case, a member of the Stella Matutina, one of the breakaway groups from the Golden Dawn, which was
yeah,
almost identical. That book that you'd mentioned earlier, the big black book, the
yeah,
complete book of the Golden Dawn system,
yeah,
that was technically Stella Matutina, and not technically Golden Dawn, although the difference is minuscule.
yeah, yeah.
But Paul Foster Case, he believed that these were demonic entities that were coming from the Enochian system, and he refused to utilize them. He felt that you're inviting death or something. And so when he created his order, the Builders of the Adytum, he completely excluded the Enochian material from it. He basically took liberal Catholicism, uh, which is basically Theosophical Society variant of Roman Catholicism, and he took Freemasonry, and he took the Golden Dawn material without the Enochian in it, and he kind of combined that all with tarot and
Yeah.
made the BOTA. That's my interpretation, anyways.
Yeah, and that aligns and tracks very well. Yeah,
Okay, I'm not sure how to get. That's so weird that I'm not able to get your screen on there. It got yeah, that's so weird. Maybe I can add it in here. Were there any other questions that came up in the chat?
I didn't see anything. That's exactly what I was asking about Enochian angel, demonic. Where's the line on these intelligences? I feel very compelled to engage in any of this stuff. Just find it all fascinating. So, I I've been told that these are different levels, different I don't know what the word I'm looking for here is, Jeremy. Maybe just like different spirits at different points in the void or whatever is out there, right? That's how my understanding of this is, right? Is spirits at one place would be considered angelic, another would be demonic, and then you've got higher orders from there. But I can't think of what those are actually called outside of like Martinism, right? Like,
Yeah,
uh,
I agree. I think depending on the perspective that you're coming at it from determines whether you think of them as angelic or demonic or some other thing. Because, if, for example, you had mentioned Astaroth, I think, or maybe
oh,
I'm not sure if that was one that you had mentioned specifically. Um, but that is, demonization of Asherah, I believe,
yeah,
which was a goddess, and then the uh, Catholic mystics decided that it was a male demon,
yeah,
instead of a goddess. So it's a very different take on the same basic entity. Like they're talking about the same thing, but in very very different terms. So I think that
yeah.
that is a big factor, is your perspective, whether you think of them as demonic or not.
Yeah, and again, like in my mind, is those are man-made terms, right? Who are we to say if something is in another man-made term bad or good, right? Like that's flip side of that is older gods, ancient gods that I've read somewhere that it could be that a lot of these demons that are things they're calling demons now were actually old gods that they chastised for their new gods, right? And so
Exactly.
uh, I just working with them as much as I have, I don't I don't feel that they're bad. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I just feel that their energy and working and other stuff is the same pretty much across the board, other than what you are doing with them, right? So at least that's been my interpretation. So I haven't done a lot of angelic work, so I could be off base there a little bit, but at the same time, I think I'm pretty close just based on other things that I've done and worked with.
Yeah, well, I mean, think of a human entity that you might encounter, just another human, right?
Yep.
Will you can everybody be categorized as good or evil, as a human?
Yeah.
We're complex entities, and I believe that a lot of these non-human entities or non-human intelligences are also complex, and you can't easily categorize them as good or evil or angelic or demonic.
Right.
uh, and there's a tie in there with aliens.
Right.
Do you ever consider that at that angle?
No, not really. I I'm sure there's something out there, but my believing that or thinking that something just put us here and just bailed on us is not really something that sits right with me for
Mm,
whatever reason. I just I have other beliefs when it comes to where we came from and things that have happened over the course of our humans trajectory, right? And so um, aliens, maybe at one point they might have stopped, but I don't think that they just dropped us here and ditched us, right? That's not really something that sits right with me. So
it's interesting. There are people, apparently, from what I've gathered, there are people that are high up in the US government that legitimately believe that alien phenomenon are literally demons.
right.
Yeah. And so sometimes they have obstructed investigation into it, because they're like, don't look into that. You're just gonna open up a can of worms because it's all demons.
Yeah. Yeah, like the what was that movie or that TV show in like the I think it's like the late '80s maybe called V, right? Where
V.
people
Oh, I love
yeah,
that.
that show was crazy.
That's
But
so
yeah,
long ago, yeah. And they would
yeah.
eat the mice,
Oh
and
yeah,
they had masks that made them look human, but
yep,
underneath it they were reptilian.
yep,
That was so cool. Uh, and it kind of ties in with the movie, that classic movie, They Live. John
yes, yeah,
Carpenter, or yeah, that
that movie,
Carpenter movie.
yep,
That's so iconic with the sunglasses and
oh yeah, yeah. That was awesome movie too.
yeah. Speaking of movies, are there any movies that you would recommend? You recommended a bunch of books, which I really appreciate, and I know that our viewers appreciate book recommendations. But also, there are a lot of movies and TV series that have embedded in them uh, various different symbolic journeys or lessons or occult imagery.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if there's any movies or TV shows that you would recommend, or that you find at least entertaining for somebody who's into this type of stuff.
So I was just doing a quick Google search here because there was a movie I watched not too long ago that I was kind of like excited to watch it. Um, it let me see if I can find the name of it. I was kind of excited to watch it, and then we started watching it. I was like, this is kind of I don't know it kind of sat weird with me, right? It felt forced, but the name of the movie is Antrim. I don't know if anybody's seen that movie or not. They flashed the sigil of Astaroth. I don't even know how many times. It's a lot. I was looking to see if there was any like I'm sure if you guys Google it, you'd be able to find it. But that one, like I said, I was excited to watch it. I was like, oh man, it's gonna be so cool. And then I watched it. And I was like, this is kind of lame. Um, Other than that, I can't think of any off the top of my head that I would highly recommend. Uh, Especially when it comes to the larger workings. Like I sit on Amazon Video sometimes and just watch horror movies. And some of the horror movies are definitely aligned with occult practices. There's been so many of them. I can't think of any that actually stand out to me right now.
There's one movie that, when you mentioned the Astaroth sigil being flashed, it made me think of, and I haven't actually seen it. It's called Heredity, I think.
Yes,
Uh, did
that
you
was an
see that?
actually yeah, it was not bad. I mean, that was I'm trying to remember. That was the one with the little girl, if I remember right. That
Yeah, something like that. Like I said, I haven't seen it, but I've heard enough about it that sounds familiar. But what I heard about it was that the movie itself was a type of ritual, and that it evoked or invoked a particular demon. And
Mhm.
I've heard of people who were serious occultists that after they watched that movie, they felt the need to banish.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
they were like, I just got to banish because I feel like I was participating in a ritual evocation of a particular demon. And I can't remember which one. Maybe it was Pazuzu or um, some another one. I don't really, like I said, I never saw the movie, but I heard enough about it that it sounded interesting in that regard, that people felt like they participated in a ritual
Yep.
calling forth of a demon when they watched that movie.
Yeah. And Antrim, it kind of feels like that's what they were trying to do. I mean, I just did a quick Google search on that as well. So they actually flashed Astaroth's sigil over 170 times in that movie.
Oh wow. I wonder if it
It,
was a specifically chosen number, like a symbolically significant number of times. I wonder. Or
that
they
I
just
don't.
shoved it in there as many times as they figured they could get away with.
Yeah, some of it's very obvious, and others not so much. Right? They kind of hide it in a couple of spots, but most of the time it's very obvious. Just flash for a quick second, almost like the older movies in the movie theater where they'd flash popcorn for a second, right? And so you get
Right, the
up and go, Peter.
subliminal.
Yes.
That's cool. Dale mentioned, thanks for this discussion, gentlemen. I'd recommend the movie Faust by Jan
Bump, bump
Spankmajer. I'm not sure how to pronounce that last name. And
Yeah.
of course, all of Kenneth Anger's films. Oh,
Hmm.
yeah. Kenneth Anger. Have you watched any Kenneth Anger?
I don't know. If I had some titles, maybe. But I will definitely. I'm gonna write that down because I want to check some of that out for sure.
Yeah, well, there was one in particular that seems particularly relevant called Lucifer Rising, and it
Oh, really?
has Jimmy Page in it as Lucifer.
Really? That's kind of
Yeah,
cool.
and he was into, Jimmy Page, the musician.
Oh yeah.
Uh, he was into esoteric and occult stuff. I heard somewhere that he had bought Crowley's Boleskine house, which was in Scotland, I think, if I remember correctly. This house that he had kind of taken over, and it became a place where they were painting on the walls, sigils, and drawing like diagrams of demonic entities and things like that. And um, it got in the news, and all this crazy stuff got said about it, all these rumors, and I believe Jimmy Page eventually ended up buying that house at one point.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, he plays Lucifer in Lucifer Rising, and it's a very symbolic film. It's a very like artsy, but Kenneth Anger was a legitimate occultist and was into Thelema and other things like Luciferianism. One of the other big or films with a cult following that he did was I think it was called Escape to the Pleasure Dome. Something to do with the Pleasure Dome.
Nice.
And but yeah, you should definitely watch Kenneth Anger's Lucifer Rising.
All right.
And
Yeah, I'm
there's
gonna.
some amazing soundtracks that have come out for that. Like there was like a separate soundtrack that came out that was pretty incredible.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh yeah, there it is. 1972. That's the one you're talking about. The one from was it
Yeah, I think
1970.
so.
Scorpio Rising, 1963. Nice.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll check.
Scorpio Rising. I forgot about that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
so he's got some really interesting and intriguing genuine occult films.
Nice.
So yeah, definitely check that out.
All right. Yeah, for sure. I will definitely look into these. Where's the? Here we go. Yeah, it looks like. I mean, he's got a bunch of movies here that.
But yeah, I would start with Lucifer Rising. That one's the one that you're probably gonna. I think you're gonna like it regardless of if you like the other ones or not.
Awesome. Awesome.
Um,
Yeah, I appreciate that. I will definitely look into that for sure.
yeah. Well, I wanted to thank you again for coming on and sharing your knowledge with us today.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I enjoyed it, and I felt like I talked a lot about, uh, you know, just experiences that hopefully can help other people, even though it was kind of wrapped in a weird, gift wrap of my story and journey. But hopefully it helps somebody on their path.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's great to hear people's journey, what brought them to where they find themselves now, and uh, how they managed to get on the Luciferian path, or whatever label of the path that they refer to it as. I find it fascinating, and I feel like I can relate to a lot of the things that people tell me about how they came to it, because I also went through a lot of those same things.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
great discussion. Love chatting with you about all this stuff. I'm sure we could probably go on for several more hours if we really wanted to, but maybe we'll save it for another event where we can go into some of these details on some of the other things that we didn't really touch, like lucid dreaming. That is one of my major things that I'm into, and it sounds like you've been into it since you were a kid too, just like I was. And
You know,
so we could probably do an entire episode just on talking about that, I'm sure.
it's funny as I was going through that and the astral projection stuff. I literally I was going through some of my books. This was probably it's probably a few weeks ago now, and I still have a book that I forgot about that I swiped from my high school. When I was in high school about astral projection, right? It was literally the only about astral projection, and
Oh
I ended
yeah.
up when we moved, and I forgot about it,
Mm.
and I still have.
Oh, you still have it in your
Oh
library,
yeah,
your
I,
personal
I,
library.
I was like, what the heck is this? And look at it, it's like, oh crap.
Is is that like the Denning and Phillips one, or is it like the Monroe book, or
Oh man, it was. If I can find it again, it it's old, like from the like 80s, I believe, maybe early 90s, maybe it's in my case. I may have moved it in my case with all my other fun stuff, but if I can't find, oh yeah, there it is. It is. What is this book? It's called Mind Power. It's by Penguin Books. Nona
hmm,
Coxhead. Uh, Made in 1976 is the copy.
cool. Did it actually help? Was it a good? Did it help you at the time?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. It helped me figure out how to relax and go forth you know through through different things when it comes to astral projection and visualization and relaxation. So
Mm.
the book was phenomenal. I mean, back then it was phenomenal. I'm sure if I read it now, I'm going to be like, "What the heck is this garbage?" But yeah.
That's so funny. Okay, yeah. I guess we should probably wrap this up here. Otherwise, we're gonna keep going forever and
Yeah.
ever. But yeah, maybe it'd be great to have you on again in the future on one of these meetings, and we'll be talking, of course. And I invite anybody who is interested to join us on this journey with the Novus Ordo Luciferi of self initiation and occult practice and exploration and developing the self, but also with the intent to make the world a better place in the process through sharing of knowledge, utilizing knowledge for the betterment of humanity, and all that good stuff. Yeah, I invite you to join us. You could go to www.novusordoluciferi.org, which will be in the description of this video as well. And follow us on all the different social media platforms that we have set up for that. And we hope to see you. And thanks again, Grim. And we'll talk to you again real soon.
All righty. And thank you everyone for coming out and listening to me ramble for a while.
Thanks again. Bye,
Thank
Grim.
you. Bye.
Okay, and that ends our stream. I hope you guys enjoy.